You heartless bastard.
GameTrailers Game of the Year Awards 2013.
As the lines between downloadable or even indie continue to blur, we decided to draw a line in the sand. And once again it states, downloadable only. While big-budget retail games trend toward creatively conservative crowd pleasers, downloadable games continue to be industry pathfinders. Smaller and often more daring, these games can take big risks. As a result, some of the most innovative and interesting games live in this space.
But please, please, whatever you might find, don't tell Mom and Dad.
The Swapper has a simple mechanic that unfolds into complex gameplay. A puzzle platformer, your astronaut avatar has a special tool that lets him create clones of himself. Players can switch control to any clone in the character's line of sight to solve complex environmental puzzles by moving, placing, and switching bodies while uncovering the creepy occurrences at hand. The game's backgrounds aren't the typical CG. Instead, handmade crafted clay models give an uncanny touch that contributes to the Swapper's surreal, freaky atmosphere. While some games are all about making an artistic statement, Guacamelee is all about fun. After his love is kidnapped, a humble farmer is transformed into an undead luchador. He must fight and jump his way through a wild but lighthearted world based on Mexican folklore, with video game winks thrown in. The combat system is simple enough to pick up, but deep enough to be interesting. But there's more than just the combat, with plenty of platforming and puzzle-like areas to keep players involved in this fast-paced romp. No game on this list illustrates how downloadable games can take risks more than Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. A single player controls both brothers at the same time, one with each analog stick. They have to work together to get past everything from drawbridges to enemies. This unconventional gameplay mechanic requires multitasking abilities most humans just don't have, and transforms simple puzzles into worthy challenges. The story, inspired by the darker side of fairy tales, conveys a lot, though it lacks dialogue.
Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
Even people who love the Stanley Parable have to admit it's an odd sort of game, and that's part of its charm. The crux of the story happens early. When Stanley comes to a room with two doors, the narrator directs the player to the door on the left. But what happens when the player goes through the other door? The game asks whether games can have a story and freedom at the same time. It's a game that explores game design, and it's more than willing to break the rules to do it. There's very little to interact with, and the narrator speaks directly to the player. At times, the Stanley Parable folds in on itself. It's an unpredictable and thought-provoking experience.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
And the winner is...
Every element of Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons is finely crafted, from its storytelling and character building without words, to its boldly innovative gameplay, to its detailed and striking setting. But when all of these elements come together, it results in a game that's thoughtful and evocative, something deeper than it seems, without putting on airs.